I'm so excited to welcome in defensive coordinator Gary Patterson to the show. Coach, how was your summer? How'd it go?
Well, yeah, it was busy.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, so, the plan was for me, at least when I got here in February, it was going to be straight through. I knew we were going to have to teach a new system. Going to try to catch up with Coach Riley because he's got most of his offense back to give us what he wanted. So that's where we are right now, right? And so we're in our third day of, had 1 day of pads, 1 day of football instead of basketball, and so we're moving forward.
When you finished spring camp, what were the takeaways from what you learned in that period, and how do you get ready for fall camp in that sense? How did you apply that?
Well, number one, I knew we were going to have, probably over half of our defense was going to be redshirt freshmen and freshmen. So really, it was just to build it brick by brick. It was going to be teach it, get through spring, find out what we needed to do, then teach it again in April, as we time that you're allotted, and then they're off in May, and then teach it in June, the time you're allotted, and then teach it again in July, and now we're teaching it again here in August. And so, and we've gotten older. It's kind of like taking them from freshmen somewhere, try to get them all into sophomore level, then maybe higher sophomore level, then in the junior level of the lower guys, right, of the guys that are young, and get them where we are. And we've come, really, to be honest, we've come a long way. I'm not really a guy that's going to go out and say that the sky's falling, or we're going to Mars, right? So we're just but really happy with our progress, where we're at, what we're doing. I think everybody's kind of bought in what we're trying to get done. We're trying to help everybody be successful, and we're really trying to elevate our whole roster. I think that's the biggest thing about, if you want to win a championship, you've got to have depth in everything that you at every level and every position. So really. So far, going into practice 4 tomorrow, still doing the same thing. We go through the way we teach. We teach, really through 6 days. I go whole part whole. So after practice 6, then we'll start all over again, and then everything will be about getting better through the rest of fall camp.
How would you describe just the difference when you see, the second run through of guys learning your scheme versus in July in the fourth run through? What's the difference? How can you tell that they've gotten a better grasp of it?
Well, they don't. They're learned really. And it came all the way to July. I think they learned how to it, and then you learn how to fix it. I think that's the difference. When you learn how to fix a scheme, when you know it well enough, then you react. You don't just play, and where they're just reacting. So for us, everything right now is trying to put them in different situations and different fronts and coverages that allow them to be more successful, understand what their job is. And then also communication's really big in everything that we do. And so really teaching guys to talk. Everybody nowadays texts, and they do all the things they do. They don't talk. And so really it's about getting them to communicate, understand that the definition of a great player is the guy that steps on the field when everybody else gets better, when you do. And so, because he makes everybody better. So, for us, that's kind of been our MO.
There are a couple of key players who were limited in spring that, according to Coach Riley, are now back. One of them being Prophet Brown. Coach Riley said that's someone who really fits well in your scheme. What have you seen from him?
Yeah, him and Maddie Reardon really both kind of stepped up because of their intelligence of the game and, their man coverage skills. And so, for us, just to keep moving forward, Prophet's an older player. The way Coach Riley talks about him, it was really hurt when he had to go out last season. Yeah. And probably because of the communications and things we're talking about, him getting things done. And so, we're going to have to lean on him, kind of like all the older guys that we have. We don't have a lot of older guys in the secondary. And so, but the rest of the guys, really improved the freshmen. But he's been a good leader when it comes to all those young guys.
What have you come to learn about Coach Riley's offense now that you've seen it up close and personal?
Well, I saw it up close and personal for 10 years.
Sure, but so, practice.
It's I think what it allows me to do is it allows me to make more adjustments. A lot of the 12 personnel stuff that he gets into, a lot of times when you go against an offense, whoever your coordinator is, you don't get all the looks. And so for us, we're getting a lot of different looks that are actually, and he's been great about motioning and doing things so our guys have to talk, which has really allowed the secondary to really kind of grow up a little bit.
Coach was praising you at Big Ten Media Day, and he was talking about how much of an icon you are, especially in the state of Texas. He said that he went to a camp of yours as a kid, I believe. Did you know this about him?
Well, you got to remember now I'm 24 years older than he is. And so, but I would tell you this, Coach Riley's done it. I really like the way he handles things, his temperament, how he goes about things. And so for me, it's been real easy because he's allowed me to do what I need to do. And be honestly, give me the help. If I needed something in practice, give me the help so we can get better. He understands that for us to win a championship, not only do they have to keep doing what they've done on offense, but we have to be better on defense. And that was the challenge when I came in here. That's why I didn't go anywhere on vacation. I stayed all summer, made sure whenever I could be around the kids, I was around the kids, so we could keep teaching and learning and doing the things we needed to do.
Coach Riley also said about you, he's an absolute psycho. When he goes, it's full speed. I don't know if he's left the office since he's been in LA. How do you find the motivation to just stick your head down and work
I've always
hard?
been that. That's what we had to do to change TCU. We only had, when other people had 5 strength coaches just for football, we had 1. So the strength coaches had to be in the off season. You had to, I always considered myself more of a COO than a CEO. Because just at TCU, we felt like that everybody had to evaluate, everybody had to coach, everybody had to do everything they needed. So I never quit calling defense at TCU. That's the thing that people understand. That's the one thing that I think kept me young and kept all the things away. I kept doing what I really liked about the job and then you had to be CEO, and we had to raise a lot of money at TCU to do the things kind of like they've done here with our new building. Yeah. And so, so everybody was involved. And so it was it couldn't be an 80% job. You couldn't be where you're leaving on vacation and leaving your kids alone or the strength coaches alone. Everything needed to be around. And that's really how I approached when I came here. That's what my job was. That's what I told him and I would try to get accomplished. And that's what we're trying to get done right now.
This was the first full offseason for Coach True and his strength and conditioning program. What did you see what was he able to do with the roster?
Well, number one, Coach True, anywhere he's been, has been amazing. If you talk to people at Kansas State, they said they weren't as good after he left. I mean, if you just look at all the things where people go, it's their history and what people say and what you do. And so I think that's the biggest thing. Him and his staff they're really good at what they do. They care about the kids, but they're tough. Somewhere in your program, you have to have a bad cop. Somewhere you have to have a guy that is going to push them and make them be when nobody else is around. And that's what the strength staff does as a general rule. And so he's really good at it.
In the spring, most of the roster was here. How much of a head start did that give you coming into fall camp?
Oh yeah, you can't even measure what happens when you have everybody here starting in January. They get to know each other. Even in the young guys, they get to know each other. They get to know you. There's that, as you might say, honeymoon period where everybody's kind of getting to know each other, but nobody really trusts or anything, no matter what they say. And so to have the opportunity to be here since February with everybody coming in and doing all of it, and them all to be together, because for you to do it, you got to be able to trust each other and play. Yeah. And our kids, they've got to a point where we're getting a lot better at all that.
Have you ever had that in your career?
No, I mean, I think probably because we didn't have to. Probably the years that we went to the Rose Bowl, we had the majority of our roster coming back, so we didn't have a big recruiting class going into that season. So you already had guys that had played a lot of football. The strength is all of them are here. The negative is they're a lot of them are young, and so it's how do we get young guys to play older, and that's really been what we've tried to get accomplished. Because it's not about younger guys. Sometimes they play fast, but they're out of control, and the key is to play quick. It's not, and understand what you're trying to do and play with leverage and do things. So.
In that sense, what would you define as a successful fall camp experience for the defense?
Well, I don't know. We'll see what that is. Whatever, be the best we could be by the time we get to the end of fall camp to get ready for San Jose. I'm kind of different. Sometimes my philosophy is that, you have 44 practices without off weeks in the fall. You get 4 a week, so that's 48 practices. If you do it right, you get 25 practices plus about 10 to 15 walkthroughs, so that's 40 practices you just get in August. So for us, if you use them right, if you use them right, you have a chance to really grow your football team up. And, once you get things installed, then what you do is you start working on, also when you're not playing against our own offense, you start working on your ball games that you're going to play. And that's why in the spring we broke down the first 7 games that we had to play against. So when you get an opportunity, you can start scripting the plays that they run and get ready for them. And so for us, that's what we've tried to get accomplished is every day right now, it's at least for these first 10 days, it's really about 15 days. It's about making USC better, and then you turn your attention to getting ready for the season. And the good thing for us on defense is Coach Riley gives you so many looks. Yeah. You have to be able to handle them yourselves, and kids have to be able to adjust. And that's what makes him good at what he does with what they do here, and that's why they've been successful. And so, if you use it right, it should make your defense better also.
And this is probably a loaded question, but from your perspective, what's something you just can't know until that first game, week 0?
Well, everybody, it's that's why you scrimmage a little bit. It's as much for the coaches as it is for the players. It's just day-to-day operations. Who's the guy you can trust to give you the right personnel groups? How do we see the field? How everybody acts on the sidelines? How everybody does everything.
What's your philosophy when it comes to coaches on the field versus in the booth during games?
Well, now the whole game's changed. Now that you have tablets, be upstairs giving you personnel and seeing some things, but really at the end of a series, now you get the tablets, you get a chance to see it yourself. So it's not as common to have as many people upstairs as you used to have because you need them on the sideline because everybody can coach.
Interesting. Okay. Now, as far as just the chemistry of this coaching staff coming together, I know Coach Gonzalez, you obviously have a history with him, but what's the chemistry like now as a staff?
We've gotten better. It's always harder, because they had really improved on defense a year ago. It's coming in what they felt like their philosophy, why he brought me in my philosophy, and how you melt all that together so that you can become successful. Use everybody's strengths as much as you can. I think being a head coach, that helps me a little bit. I kind of went in as a consultant. It was the same thing at Texas, going into a situation where, you just want to sit in the room and you just want to help. And the same thing goes as a coordinator is to make sure, we have some vision of what we want to get done. Sometimes people don't see the end game of what you're trying to get accomplished, and you have to work through it. And having been at a place like TC where we started, they were 1-10 when we got there, and everything we had to build and do that, I think it's given me a lot of experience through the 45 years. I mean, this is my 45th, I think, season. Started in 81. So it's the 45th season of doing all this stuff. And so you try to go back and kind of reach back and take things that you've done to change. And how do you do and understand that you may have to take a step back to go 2 steps forward, to be honest with you sometimes. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. A lot of coaches nowadays have 3 to 5 year plans. And so you can say about anything you want to, but, being at TCU 24 years, you really can't hide. Everybody knows how you do things. And so I've always been kind of a straightforward, tell people what I think when it comes to those kind of things. And I think Coach Riley appreciates that of it. Something, it's not that he has to use it when you make a suggestion, but sometimes it's just better to hear a different scenario. And, that way somewhere in the thing, it makes it somewhere you may use it and it makes you better. And so that's what I've tried to do from a standpoint of defense. And then at a holistic thing where I pay a lot of attention to the strength, conditioning, what they run and how they do things, to, answering any questions he has when, if he has any. So if I can help. So outside of that, I just try to stay in my lane.
At this point, is it too early to say that you have a sense of like the character or feel of this defense, what they're like as a
well,
as
I think
group?
We're growing it. Again, it's there's a lot of talent in the room. There's inexperience. We're trying to grow up and trying to bring. The job of a coach is to just make the player to drive the player to become the best he can be, and they can't ask any different. And that means not just on the field but off the field. I mean, you get guys that handle themselves and do the right things off the field, then you're also going to have guys that are going to do things the right way on the field, because you got to sleep, you got to eat, you got to go to class. Everything's got to be in a routine. Mm-hmm. Usually the guys that play the best are the ones that have the best routines. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that's one of the things we talk about right now, coaches and players. And, we're still finding out on a staff what's everybody's strengths. Are you a creative guy? Are you a player's guy? Are you all those kind of things? And everybody plays a role. And how do we play good cop, bad cop till we get a guy to grow up and become what we need him to be, you know, and do it in a reasonable way. You know, everybody said the kids nowadays are different, but I don't think so. I think I've always felt like great players want to be told, good players want to be coached, and, you know, guys that aren't average, you know, that don't care, then it doesn't matter to them. Yeah. And so for me, I like dealing with those first two, you know, guys that want it, you know, that's really important to them. They don't have to be a great player. My job is just to make sure I can make them be as good a player, as good a person as they can possibly be going forward. You know, we have always had a saying, other places I've been, is 40, not 4. It's not about 18 to 22. It's about 22 to 62. And everybody says, well, with the portal, you know, everybody's leaving. But it doesn't matter. That's still what a coach's job is. The coach's job is to make sure that we do the right things as many times as we possibly can. Doesn't mean that we don't screw up. You know, you don't always get everything right, but it's if you correct it, that's all that matters. So that's what we're doing right now. This is my first fall camp going through with these guys. Yeah. And really, it helped going through spring, so I had a lot better feel for what I needed to get accomplished, and all the coaches do too. So
awesome. Well, Coach, I'm so excited to see your defense this season. Thanks so much for stopping by, and we'll see you soon.
Perfect. Yeah, we're excited. Fight on.